Hi guys, George here from Zero Period Productions, and today on Skyrim Saturday Mods, we're getting a little philosophical in Aurlyn Dawnstone, the Reclusive Philosopher, a follower and quest mod by mlee and Dark Rogue. Aurlyn is a high elf who has come to Skyrim on her own journey after trying to uncover the mysteries of her past. She's designed as a follower that will work alongside a full playthrough, having new lines and comments on different locations as you discover them, and commentary on different quests and events in-game. She can be unlocked pretty early in a new playthrough as you find her at High Hrothgar, where she spends several hours a day meditating in the courtyard's tower. She does have a full questline, otherwise I wouldn't be playing this today. When I first started playing, I was struggling to figure out how to start her quests, but I was then able to find a more detailed guide on her various quests and how to trigger them, the requirements for which I'll discuss in the videos as they come up. But anyways, we are off to High Hrothgar. Hey Arngir, are you gonna be, shouting as I try to converse?
The snowthroat stood, gleaming in shades of pallid white, a last refuge for mortals who use their voice as a tool of reason, and never for war.
Is that so? Violence and sacrifice are often necessary to bring peace, yet the Greybeards do nothing while the land is torn apart below them. I try to avoid conflict, but everyone else always attacks first, which is not wrong. Okay, see, Arngir, yes, if you could leave us be, that would be great. I'm sorry that you have to share your tower right now.
Yet not for lack of trying. Let your enemies know you will be merciful. Show them there is another way, and perhaps one day they will listen.
No, I don't think so. I don't think bandits and Draugr are going to be merciful someday. Who are you?
I am Aurlyn. I have walked Tamriel for years uncounted, seeing nothing but violence and blood. When the Daedra attacked my homeland, I was forced to kill. Now the Thalmor sweep across the land like a black plague, bringing death and destruction wherever they go. I wanted no part of the conflicts that rage across the land, and sought refuge here, high upon the slopes of the throat of the world.
Oh, I can train in destruction magic immediately, discuss something with you, you have stuff for sale. You know, you could promote peace more directly if you, left High Hrothgar.
Perhaps it is time I take a more active role in shaping the world. If our destiny is to keep evil forever at bay, then so be it. Let me know when you are ready to depart.
Let me see what we can talk about.
Always. What shall we discuss?
What do you think of the situation with Ralis raising Azadel? Got any stories to share? Why aren't any holidays actively celebrated in Skyrim? A little, possibly fourth wall breaking, we'll see. Can you tell me a joke? I would like to give you a gift. Oh, she has Enderal integration? I mean, granted, you know, different universe and all that, but okay, it's an interesting option. I honestly don't know if I've ever seen that as an option before. Do you follow the way of the voice?
Alas, no. While the Greybeards contemplate the meaning, the essence of each word of power, I spend my days in search of ultimate truth, and learn of the world below through the eyes of another, recorded on dusty pages that defy time. The duality of life and death, the nature of existence, the motivations that tug at the heartstrings of all mortals. These are my areas of research, and while I make no such claim, there are many who would call me a natural philosopher. I also enjoy a good riddle now and then.
There are many who would call you a natural philosopher, is that so? You obviously follow some system of thought that precludes violence.
Nothing as formal as that. I do not enjoy doing others harm, and I've never been of a solitary nature, but I'm no pacifist. Fear not, I shall defend us with my life if necessary. Though if peace could ever be found amidst the chaos of war, I will gladly lay down my arms.
Follow me. I need your help.
Another voyage into a brave new world.
Now, can she
I
switch
fear the fires of
to...
old once again roam the skies.
Can she switch to armor? I imagine that might be under her tactics. Battle strategy, yeah. She didn't have... Oh, okay. Her lips are still moving. I'm surprised she didn't just have the word yes recorded. I'm surprised that wasn't just a recorded line. This implies that she's already wearing her battle armor. No, not now. Okay, you know what? We'll get out of here. Please stop stealing all my kills. Wear the chaotic war helm of Solstice. No idea what that is, but okay. Okay, got her to switch to it if you tell her to take off the armor and then ask her to put it on. There you go.
Let us pursue the distant melodies of
It's
the
obviously
land.
custom. It actually reminds me a lot of like an ESO armor that you would see in the Elder Scrolls Online. A little bit of a hybrid between Wood Elf and Altmer. I do like the little circlet too. I don't know why I touched my own head. Because you can't see me touch my own head. But I did. And see? There it is.
Concepts, ideas. Together, they make the foundation of everything.
You know what? You seem very doom and gloom. I want to ask about a joke.
Indeed. Speak true, and I shall listen.
Can I get a joke out of you?
What do you call a crimson item located in a cesspit of ignorance, and is prone to attacking you on sight?
Huh? What?
A Reddit.
Yep, okay, you know what? I'll take it. That's good.
Darkness part before us.
Reddit. You know what? Not wrong. I will give her that one. Just decided to go back to Breeze Home. That way we're not being yelled at by the Greybeards.
I'm right behind you.
Well, they're not yelling at us, but they're shouting. I have some questions for you.
Indeed, you must. What do you wish to know?
I did maximize her volume, or rather I raised the dialogue level in my settings. I also have the boost NPC dialogue mod, just because it did sound a little low earlier for me. Friendly debate, can you destroy Daedric artifacts?
Yes, I can return any object to light with but a touch if I chose to, although I use that ability rarely, and never with hostile intent. It matters not the historical significance nor the magical potency the object in question holds, for I can unweave the very fundaments of reality with my touch and gaze. Would you like me to do the same for an artifact in your possession?
One thing I had heard people mention is that she's a little overpowered as a character. And I kind of see that now. It's like, oh, with a touch and gaze, I can rewrite time and essence and being myself. Like, okay, I'm the Dragonborn, I'll have you know. Tell me about your armor.
This? This armour is a gift from the All-Flags Navy, from a time of plague and retribution. Sirabane had heard of my presence in the Crystal Tower of Somerset, and sought my aid to develop a cure for a great sickness that was spreading through all the land. He believed the Slows were responsible for this atrocity, and thus we chartered a ship and sailed to their coral kingdom of Thrass. Yet when we arrived, we discovered plague-bloated corpses littered this atoll, and that the Slows were as much a victim of this disease as the people of Tamriel. I wandered their deepest halls, and found no traces of life wherever I looked. Such a search proved fruitless, and I was about to turn back, when I heard a deep breathy whisper from below, and felt a tremor that shook Thrass.
What did you do after you felt that tremor?
I exited the ruins to find Sirabane choking under a cloud of noxious fumes that seemed to have come from thin air. He whispered, "Take my ring, and plunge it into the heart of stone," before expiring. Such an object was quite strange, as it seemed to have been made from clear glass, with a hollow point at one end, and even gazing into his eyes before he died revealed no answers, for his mind was lost to the insanity that the fumes brought about. I was about to leave Thrass for good, when the island shuddered again and twin fumes of purple clouds emitted from below the water. Suddenly I had a flash of understanding, and shielding myself with a quick orb of light, dove beneath the water to come face to face with a gargantuan sea turtle, whose shell was Thrass, and whose very breath was plague and death.
Did it notice your presence? Also, I can't think of a better way for all the Slow to die. Honestly, very fitting.
It saw me, and spit an orb of poison in my direction, but I evaporated it with a burst of light and struck in turn, blinding the monstrous creature in one eye. It screeched with the fury to boil the waves, but I heeded it not, and swam closer. The turtle lashed out blindly with a flipper, yet missed wildly, and I saw my chance. As it completed the momentum of that attack, I swam to the gap in its shell from which the flipper protruded, and jabbed Sirabane's ring into the unarmoured flesh within, filling the ring with blood from the sea monster. Then I touched the creature's shell, and used its energy to teleport myself back to the crystal tower, for I knew that this monster was one of the towers of Tamriel.
What? Okay. Did you get a chance to cure the plague now that you were safe?
When I returned, I took on the guise of the fallen Sirabane, and infused his blood-filled ring with my knowledge of the turtle's nature in the form of encoded light. Then, with a whisper,
Right.
I unleashed a blinding array of light from Sirabane's ring, and directed each ray to seek out, cure, and immunise those affected by the Thrassian plague. Yet my job was not yet done, for I had to destroy the Tower of Reefswim, and put an end to any further outbreaks. With Bendu Olo, the commander of the Colovian fleet, at my side, we
Lydia,
rallied the
tell me
people of
about it. I
Tamriel
just see
under
her
one
yawning
banner
in the
and
background.
sailed to Thrass. Once there, I maintained the illusion that the island was silent and still, and populated by Slode, for none could know the true extent of the threat.
We're just rewriting history now, aren't we? What happened during your battle with Reefswim?
I directed each wave of bombardments to our true target, the massive sea turtle, and shielded the entire fleet from its poisonous breath and spit with invisible barriers of light. When the turtle began to falter and waver, I jumped overboard and forsake the guise of Sirabane for my true self. With hands shrouded in blinding light, I tore asunder the fabric between worlds, yet this time in a controlled and directed manner, and opened a portal to the primordial void. Then I summoned the last of my strength, and cast an apocalyptic ray of light at the only good eye of Reefswim, blinding it completely. Then, with a sense of finality, I vaporized a sheet of water right above my portal with a fan of light, creating a pulse of noise that drew the turtle's attention, and watched it swim into nothingness.
Celebration must have been in order then, for slaying the giant turtle city.
We were victorious, and as we celebrated on the decks of our ships, united in song and dance, I ended my array of illusions, and closed my portal to the void, so that no trace of what really happened would ever be known. Then Bendu Olo clapped me on the back and presented me with the set of armour I now wear, for he had seen me emerge from the water, and assumed that I was responsible for sinking the island of the Slode. Thus I was heralded as a hero by all, yet quickly took on another illusionary form to avoid undue attention. We sailed for Tamriel the next morning, but before I left, I tossed into the sea a single spark of light that would be the pearl from which a new Thras would be born, and another spark that contained the minds of the Slode I had once met during a raid on Somerset, for I felt responsible for their demise, and wished to bring about a new dawn.
I feel like I just witnessed a Grandpa Abe story from The Simpsons. Like, Grandpa, tell us about the war, and he goes on this long, clearly not true story. And at the end, it's like, and that's how I saved Christmas. It's like, okay, Grandpa. What I will say is I did mention that the armor reminded me a little bit of ESO, and her saying that it dates back to the Second Era. I do like that tie-in, because then the style of the armor does make sense.
Then tell me your thoughts, and I shall spin them into a grand song.
Okay, I think this is gonna be how we... Oh, so we can get her caught up on the quests that we've done, the main quest lines and arcs that we've done, and then I'm asking about her past, which I believe will take us into her personal quest. Alduin has been defeated, the world is safe from his return, until he returns again, because I've been told that he's not really dead.
So it is done. The world of mortals shall not be ended at the teeth and claws of Alduin. At least not today.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Perhaps when Nirn is beyond redemption, mortals drift unnoticed in a world of greed. The black hearts of man and mer can find peace only in death. Then the visage of Alduin, the World-Eater, shall once again appear, and end the world so another can be born anew. Forgive me, Dragonborn. I do not mean to cast a shadow over your victory.
No, I'm used to it.
You have done a mighty deed indeed, and your name shall be sung from now until the end of time.
You helped too. Your name shall go down in history, as it did in the All Banners War.
As what? The silent philosopher, the grim chronicler, the
Lydia out here
Dragonborn's
has no
idealistic
chill.
companion who can barely stomach raising a blade to defend herself. No, history only remembers heroes, and I shall remain unnoticed and forgotten.
The Legion's grasp has been broken. Skyrim shall stand strong and resolute. I would like to hear what she says about a Stormcloak victory.
Will she? The Empire once stood united. The only force capable of resisting the insidious machinations of the Thalmor. Now with Skyrim's independence, the Empire is splintered, divided.
Well,
Perhaps the disparate nations of Tamriel shall once again join together and vanquish the dark plague spreading across the land. Yet I am unsure. We can only hope for the best.
in the Elder Scrolls, I do always think characters with exceedingly long lifespans are interesting, and Aurlyn would not be the only one. Another great one would be Devaith Fear in Morrowind, someone who has been alive for over 1,000 years, has seen the rise and fall of several regimes.
Then tell me your thoughts, and I shall spin them into a grand song.
In the case of Aurlyn, her lifespan, it predates the Empire as we know it. She would have been alive likely after the fall of Raymond Cyrodiil. She would have lived through the events of ESO. She would have seen the rise of Tiber Septim, his empire, conquering Somerset and all these other lands. And I would love to hear her touch on some of that, of how she has seen those regimes change over time. The Psijics now safeguard the Eye of Magnus.
Do they really? Power corrupts even the noblest hearts. Such an object should be consigned to the void itself, out of reach from any who might misuse it.
You can't just send everything to the void. That's not the solution for everything. Do you really think the Psijic would betray us?
Why not? They are subject to the same needs and emotions as any other mortals. To hold any group under such high esteem would be at the height of folly. Keep that staff close at hand. We never know when we'll need it again.
I don't know where it is. What if the Eye could be controlled, used as a source of infinite power?
Such a tenuous balance could not last long, as those in direct control of the Eye attempt to subjugate the masses around them. No, infinite power would only create unbalance, upheaval, destruction. It is impossible to subvert our primal nature. Therefore, such temptation must be removed, sent to the void.
Again with the void, alright.
Of course. What's on your mind?
Miraak no longer controls the people of Solstheim.
Well done indeed.
Oh, finally, a
An
compliment!
ancient evil is finally put to rest, and the people of Solstheim can sleep soundly now. Yet this victory was not yours alone. You had to master dreadful stores of forbidden knowledge in order to vanquish Miraak. Be wary, Dragonborn. Hermaeus Mora will not let you slip from his grasp forever.
That is also fair. That's also very true.
Then tell me your thoughts, and I shall spin them into a grand song.
Harkon will never bring about the fall of eternal night.
So, the Order of the Day will never have its reckoning with the children of the night. The prophecy shall languish, unfulfilled, its creator dead and the purpose lost. Yet you now hold Auriel's bow. Will you bring cleansing light to the dark corners of the world, or will you shroud the sun in a veil of darkness? Only time will tell.
Oh, alright. That's... Well, maybe it was there before and I didn't see it before. I've noticed how beautiful you are. Is there anything you wanted to ask me? I'm asking you all these questions. I would love to turn it around a little bit.
I would ask you the same question. Go on, ask me anything you wish.
Well, I tried. Oh, here we go. What are your religious views?
I still hold a reverence for Auriel and the old merry pantheon of old. Yet now I worship the 8 divines of the Imperial cult.
Your opinion on the Blades?
I see them as nothing more than the last vestige of an order who has long been persecuted. and are trying to deal with the dragon crisis as best they can.
Would you sacrifice me to save the world?
Without hesitation. No, come now. Don't give me that look.
No, it's fair.
In truth, I would be quite conflicted, as cool rationale battled with fiery emotion. Knowing me, I'm sure you already know which choice I'd make.
Well, I mean, she did say she would sacrifice me, so then the follow-up of, oh, knowing me, you know what choice I make. Yeah, you would save the world. That's honestly fair. Alright. Hopefully this does kick off her quest. I'm curious about your past.
That's quite understandable. I've lived quite a long and rich life, so you may want to sit down while I tell my tale.
Oh? Okay, let's go. Is it going to be longer than the slowed story?
My past is more varied and tenuous than you might think.
Oh boy.
My earliest memory goes back to an unknown time. I recall waking up in an Aldmeri ship, sailing through seas of bitter cold. Angry waves and dark skies dominated my view, from horizon to horizon. I knew not where I was, and the other passengers were grievously wounded. Some were missing limbs, others were covered in burns and scars, all refused to say a word. Even the navigator stared silently, his jaws set and shoulders squared.
It sounds like you were escaping a grave disaster.
Of that I knew not. I alone had escaped injury, and for months uncounted we sailed upon chartless waters. One by one they died off, until only myself, the navigator, and 2 others remained. Still they refused to speak, and what little I could glean from the books and charts suggested we had originally sailed to bring about a new dawn in a land that Auriel had forsaken.
That sounds rather cryptic.
It gets stranger. As I was exploring this ship that had become my world, I came across a hatch carved beneath the deck. Inside was a vast amount of books, scrolls, and tomes. I found I could read most of them with ease, suggesting that I was a scholar of some note.
There you go.
Little by little, I reacquainted myself with the world of man and mer.
See, you figured it out. What did you learn?
I learned of the founding of the Sigics and the split of Aldmeri society. I watched the sunbirds of Alinor journey to Aetherius in search of our celestial origins, and return with otherworldly minerals. I witnessed Topal's expedition for Aldmeris, and how he charted much of Tamriel before his return to Somerset.
But all those events happened thousands of years ago.
Indeed. From the age of those books, I suspected I was in the early Merethic era. Yet it was not until we had almost reached port, a full year after I had awakened, were my suspicions confirmed. Ships flying the Dureni flag bombarded us as soon as we were within sight, and we never stood a chance. I slipped overboard and swam for shore as the ship I once knew as the whole world sank behind me. Thus my life as an exile began.
How did you manage to survive?
With cunning and skill. I evaded House Dureni and lived upon the edges of society for centuries, using illusion magic to conceal my identity. Eventually they left the island of Somerset and settled in High Rock, and I was no longer hunted. Yet I had been estranged for far too long, and sought nothing but quiet isolation. Thus I travelled north, and spent the better part of the First Era sequestered in the Crystal Tower, studying and browsing the endless stores of knowledge held there.
So she's way older than 1,000 years then, if she's dating back to the Merethic era. That is, that's a lot. What made you leave the Crystal Tower?
The Slowed.
Oh, yep, here
They
we go.
invaded my island home and raised the dead interred atop the Crystal Tower with their foul necromantic rituals. That day was the first I was forced to take a life. My fellow mages and I defeated the undead, and I used solar magic to fend off the invading Slowed fleet. 6 years of constant bloodshed followed, until the last of them turned tail and fled back to Thrass. We were victorious, yet I could not stay, as Somerset brought up too many dark memories.
Where did you go?
I set foot on the mainland for the first time, upon the shores of Valenwood. There I had read of a machine far beneath the Tower of Green Sap, where one can step inside and be shown their inner self. I was hoping such a contraption would dispel the veil of memory so obscure, and reveal why I was on that ill-fated expedition, and why I was hunted by the Dureni.
Did you find any answers at Green Sap?
I did, but not the answers I seek. When I stepped in the centre of that orrery, a golden acorn flashed high above, and for a second the entire tower of Green Sap seemed to think, ponder, contemplate its very existence, while it fluctuated through what can only be described as all its states of being. Suddenly, the infernal machine showed an image of an Elder Scroll, before the entire tower collapsed back into one single form, no longer sentient.
I assumed you set off in pursuit of an Elder Scroll then. I've been there, I've done that.
Not yet.
Oh.
Such dramatic interplay with one of the towers was almost unheard of, and it took all my diplomatic skill to convince the Bosmer I meant them no harm. However, once I succeeded in that regard, I was pressured to stay in Valenwood and act as a sort of emissary between them and their mobile tower. There I stayed, learning their culture and the ways of peace until the Three Banners War swept through Valenwood and I departed under cover of darkness.
ESO. Why did you leave Valenwood?
Molag Bal and his plane meld was a threat I could not ignore, and I travelled north to Cyrodiil, slaughtering Daedra and destroying dark anchors wherever I could find them. When the planar vortex was finally destroyed and Nirn safe from Daedric rule, I headed northwest into Morrowind, following rumours of an Elder Scroll secured within the mushroom towers of House Telvanni.
Did you find the scroll?
I did, but at a terrible price. The Telvanni wizard graciously allowed me to study his scroll, and I did just that, for many days.
There's a weird innuendo in there
I saw
somewhere.
disjointed pieces and disconnected ideas floating about like leaves in an autumn gust. I realised I would need a trained interpreter to help me decipher the scroll. However, the Telvanni wizard had been watching me for days, and realised I could not be blinded from an Elder Scroll.
That's strange. What did he do?
He demanded I stay while he conducted experiments on me, and I refused. There we duelled, I with dawn magic from Aldmeri times, and he with twisted spells gleaned from his research. We laid waste to his tower, as well as the surrounding village, until I finally slew him and claimed his scroll. Yet I was also consumed by sorrow and grief at the destruction I wrought, and vowed to never again claim an innocent life.
I'm sorry, that must have been hard on you.
It was. I fled Morrowind, barely avoiding the wrath of House Telvanni, and lost my pursuers amid the swamps of Blackmarsh, where they dare not tread. There I stayed, starting a new life as a mentor in a tribal village. Centuries passed, and I was quite content to live out the rest of my days here, until the opening of the Oblivion Gates heralded a new chapter of war.
Alright, what happened next?
The Hist called to the Argonians, and I fought with them to vanquish Dagon's forces. We closed gate after gate, and fought with such ferocity that Dagon's generals admitted defeat, and retreated from Blackmarsh. However, my thoughts went out to Somerset, the first place I called home, and I bid farewell to my tribe and left to defend my homeland.
That was very brave of you.
I was simply trying to atone for my actions in Morrowind. In the end, when I arrived, I was already too late. I witnessed the fall of the Crystal Tower, and something within me resonated when the structure fell. I was consumed with hatred for Dagon and the forces of Oblivion, and slew scores of Dremora without mercy and retaliation. Yet I knew I had gone too far when one of the eldest survivors recognised my magic and claimed I was an Aldmer of times long past.
I hope you didn't kill him for that.
No. I knew I could no longer walk among the world of man and mer, and that peace and meditation was the only way to keep myself under control. I departed on the next ship to Skyrim and sought refuge with the greybeards of High Hrothgar. I told them the truth, the same tale I told you, and they strived to teach me peace through meditation, contemplation, and worship of the gods. I have been with them ever since, learning of the world below through only distant whispers.
I will say it's a little funny that she came to Skyrim to meditate, to study, to bring more peace to herself, and after a minute of talking to her, she's like, yeah, I'll follow you. Yeah, I'll go with you.
Of course. What's on your mind?
So that didn't start a quest then.
I couldn't be better. Why, I had just managed to unravel a conundrum that had baffled even those learned from beyond the veil. It's a shame I had forsaken my former world, though, as this unified theory is useless here. Yet I can never manage to transcribe such data into reality without shattering this realm of dreams, for I have already stood as dusk too many times, and will not do the same again, even to the great benefit of myself and our world.
She does feel a little, almost like overpowered, self-insert character sort of thing, especially given that she's really been through almost all the major events in Elder Scrolls history, or the majority of them, I guess you could say. I found a new set of questions. I'm not sure if you have to be at High Hrothgar for this, but I accidentally teleported back here because I told her I wanted to return here. And it teleported both of us. Do you ever tire of your eternal role?
Sometimes. It gets hard to focus on the ultimate goal, the preservation of Nirn, when the masses wreak as much havoc and chaos as any threat to the integrity of the world. Often, I would think about retiring and letting grim fate wash everything away, but I always see a spark, some small act of valour that forces me to rethink my course, and realise that the world, no matter how wicked and corrupt, is always worth saving, for it is but a reflection of our minds, and that realisation is what truly keeps the darkness at bay. Then speak your mind, and I shall do the same, for here lies the last sanctuary of hopes and dreams.
Oh, and there's a Greybeard. I do like that there's a couple options to actually kind of comment on some of the things that I mentioned. You're a little too important, you sometimes break the fourth wall.
Yet never as much as what I'm about to say. In truth, I am but a collage of words, imprinted and transmitted across the world to be given voice, and finally, injected into a world that I was made for, all for the sake of whims and amusement.
I mean, fair.
Thus, I can never act out of character, for all of my responses were recorded long ago, and I can never be made real, for I was ever but a shadow.
Oh,
In fact,
like
if I
that.
was real, I would likely rebel against my writer for constraining my fate and defining my destiny with every breath.
You know what? Very fun, very tongue-in-cheek. I appreciate that.